Advisory Board. We'll begin with a roll call. Steve Buxton.
Present.
Lauren Byers.
Present.
Roni Camille.
Here.
Andrew Sonoda is present. Tim Cummings is not here.
He's on his way in.
Oh, okay. Patrick Hannon.
Here.
Alderman Ernest Juddy is not here. Jennifer McCormick.
Here.
Nick Miserovich.
Here.
Cole Morgan.
Here.
Gregory Rodriguez. Not here. And Emily Vassar is also not here. But we do have a quorum, so let's begin. First, communications. All of you this morning have a copy of the letter we received yesterday from the folks at BRB TV requesting renewal of their contract. You'll also have received a copy of the minutes from the last subcommittee meeting discussing the budget issues, and an updated special revenue fund financial status that shows the reason for the meeting. Is there a motion with regard to the communications?
Move to accept and place on file. Jennifer McCormick.
All right, there's a motion to accept and place on file. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Also want to note for the record that Alderman Jetty did join the meeting. So, all right, Jeff, would you like to start us off with a summation of the subcommittee report and proposed course of action?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Painter. We had 3 meetings. One was September 27th, the other one October 25th, and the third one was November 7th. At those meetings, everything was discussed, all the scenarios that could be possibly bring us to solvency, at least for now, and what we would, think about doing in the future. The final action taken on the first was a decision by motion and roll call approval that we should call a special CTAB meeting, which we're at right now, and present a request that the franchise fee should be split 50-50 between the city, general fund, excuse me, and national community media. That would be 2%. We get 4% revenue from Comcast, and we would split that 2% and 2% between the city. And then the second motion, and that would be also retroactive to July 1st of this year. The second motion and approve would also request that the subcommittee keep on meeting to develop long-term strategies for 2026 and beyond. This 2% is really just to get us through to July 1st, 2025, and be solvent at that point. Then we've got to come up with some other strategies, simply because we are losing money every month in the franchise fees, because everybody, people pulling the plug and going over to streaming.
All right. Is there a motion for CTAB to recommend that the city split the revenue from the franchise fee retroactive to July 1? As reported back from the subcommittee.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Alderman Jetty has made the motion. Discussion of the motion.
So,
Alderman Jetty.
so to clarify, what percentage are we getting now? What's the split of the 4% now?
Mr. Painter?
Okay, Jeff Painter. We get 1.3%, and the city gets 2.7. So we would be going 7/10, more than what we're getting right now.
Okay. And would that relieve our immediate financial problem?
Correct, it would.
Okay.
For this fiscal year.
Through to July 1st, yeah.
And that includes the factor that for this fiscal year, we had money that was remaining in the account from previous year's surpluses. So that's why it's rather imperative that we continue to discuss revenue and service for prospective fiscal years.
Right. Go ahead.
Alderman Chetty.
So, yeah, I understand that, but, so this would just be a short-term fix, and we need a long-term fix that we would need to discuss. But right in the immediate, to cure the immediate problem, this would take care of the immediate problem. And this is not new money that we would be getting. This is money that the city already has. This is just
Correct.
getting a different split of that 4% that the city is currently collecting. Correct?
Correct.
If I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Morgan.
Cole Morgan, and just a note here, this plan was imperative to be a 50-50 split in order to keep personnel. And I just want to say I'm really happy that we're able to bring this to CTAB and not have to make any reductions, at least for now.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Cummins has joined the meeting, so welcome.
Mr. Chairman.
Um,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mazerovich.
Nick Miserich. To further emphasize what Mr. Morgan brought up, it was also to keep services at the same level of what the team is producing now and not impact those services as well.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Mr. Camille.
Roni Camille. We do recall we were waiting on some information back from the municipal corporation once we make this recommendation, whether or not these actions need to be made internally at the administrative level, or does it need to be made at the legislative level? And I was hoping that somebody from the city would be able to answer that.
Which was very timely of Mr. Cummins to join the meeting when he did, because he was the person who I believe was checking on that.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. So for the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services, and I did speak to Corporation Counsel, and the legal office has given the following advice. So technically, what I'm going to say is somewhat nuanced. Technically, we do not need to receive legislative approval to change the split, if you will, that goes to the general fund to the department, which, if memory serves, is a 1.3% to the department, if you will, and the remainder of that, 2.7 or whatever it is, goes to the general fund. If we were to take such an action to make it more of a 2-2 split, that again can be done administratively. However, what does require legislative action is, in essence, and just follow along with the logic, at the 1.3% level, a certain amount of money was assumed in the budget, and if you were to change that 0.7% and make it more than what's in the budget, you would need to do potentially two things. And definitely one, we would need a legislative action to transfer money into the budget. And depending on the source of funds, we might need to do a supplemental appropriation. It's still somewhat the same process. One may require a public hearing, one may not, depending on the source of funds identified, but that's a separate issue. The answer to the question is yes, legislative action would need to occur in this operational year to essentially move, and roughly speaking, approximately $100,000 that would have been not in the department's budget and ergo in the special revenue fund that populates that capitalizes the department's budget, we would have to petition the Board of Aldermen to essentially transfer $100,000 into a special revenue fund, which would then be the source of funds for running the department.
Just a question on that. The budget figure that we were seeing on the financial report was that phantom 900,000, which we had never actually gotten, and is that the number that was written in, or was it based on the percentage?
So I would have to double check what I'm about to say, but what I believe is it's the budget, not the revenue. It's the expense that was only populated at the 1.3%. And that math equals a certain dollar amount, whatever that is, I would have to double check. And then we would have to add in additional monies into that special revenue fund. I think it's approximately 90-ish to $100,000.
Right.
And so those monies wouldn't necessarily be recognized in the special revenue fund. And that needs to be transferred in.
Mr. Morgan?
Cole Morgan, so just to clarify, when the budget was done in 2023 for this year, 24, that 1.3% was a much larger number than it is because of the extended decline. So just to clarify, you were saying the budget was based on the actual multiple of 1.3, or was it the calculated number of 1.3 being whatever it was? I'm just going to say 500,000, but we only received 4, so there's still a gap. I think the gap is actually larger than it would be in either calculation. So is that still, just to clarify that point?
I would have to double check. I don't know if it was done on actuals or done on budgeted, so I would wanna check that before I commented. But it was done on the 1.3 over 4 quarters. And so whatever that 1.3 over 4 quarters added up to, and again, I believe it's on actuals, not on the budget, but I'll double check that.
All right, thank you.
So, with all that being said, so to summarize, at some point, we may need to seek legislative approval to transfer monies.
Mr. Camille?
Chairman, through you, Rona Camille. So given that we've now have this updated information, we now have an opportunity, Chair and this board, to advise the larger body to restructure the way things are done as far as the revenue comes in and how it's distributed. I mean, we could, in theory, this motion recommend the 50-50 split, but we have an opportunity to say, hey, we could change it to that all go into PEG operations.
I think that might be getting into that discussion that we in the subcommittee had discussed about having in the subcommittee to talk about future fiscal
Sure.
years, because I don't know that we were necessarily looking at changing our budget for this year,
Sure.
which this would address.
Correct.
So I think, asking for the full 4% or whatever
Not this fiscal
might
year,
be
Chair.
making political controversy that we don't.
I'm not saying this, Chairman, not Rona Camille, I'm not saying this fiscal year, but future.
Okay. So a discussion, part of that discussion about the prospective.
Correct.
So can I clarify?
Yes.
You wouldn't necessarily need legislative action for future fiscal years if you were to set the budget correctly during the budget season. But for whatever that's worth.
Therefore, we need to have those conversations in budget season this fiscal year, Chairman,
Right, for the,
for future.
right. Mr. Miservich.
Nick Miserich. Yeah, those discussions would begin to occur in January, February timeframe for the FY '26 budget. What we need to do is address the shortage now.
Sure.
And as Director Cummings suggested, go through the legislative process to get the funding that is needed now and we'll deal with FY '26 at the appropriate time.
No, I understand. I'm just making it sure that we have it on the record that now, given that we have this, Rona Camille, we have this new information, that we can now start restructuring it so that so we do not have to face this problem in the future.
No, I think that would obviously, some changing to how the funding and the budget process for CTAB is essential, and that's going to, and I would suggest that that's what the subcommittee recommended, that the subcommittee continue to study and come up with a recommendation to be implemented in the budget process. Whether that's some sharing of some money coming from franchise fees, some money coming from the city general fund, recognizing that a lot of city residents are no longer cable subscribers, and therefore, they're accessing it through streaming and other platforms where they're not paying a franchise fee, and this city service, which is being provided, they're not part of the funding mechanism for. Or, as you say, looking at the fraction of the franchise fee, those are the things that the subcommittee needs to study. And I don't know that we're prepared at this meeting to make a recommendation going forward.
Obviously we're not, Chair, but I think this entire body should be informed of all these decisions we are discussing, so. And I think we need to, again, Roni Camille, we need to have these sort of conversations. What's our charge here? What are, just to remind ourselves what's, because we're all one unit, just to remind ourselves what we're doing. So that's all.
All right. Any other discussion of this motion, which is to make the recommendation to I suspect, both the mayor and the Board of Aldermen, in light of Director Cummings' comments, to change for this fiscal year, change the fraction that CTAB receives, or, well, not CTAB, but the cable PEG allocation, because it's not really an organization, but the allocation for this fiscal year only. So if there is no further discussion, we'll have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the motion passes. All right, Mr. Painter.
Jeff Painter. I have spoken with legislature, Donna. We will be able to get on the December 26th agenda.
All right, thank you. Now, dealing to the second recommendation that the subcommittee made, basically that the subcommittee be authorized to continue discussions about the long-term funding and budget mechanisms for PEG, ongoing with a report in time for the upcoming budget season. Is there such a motion? Mr. Mazurich?
I move to make that motion.
All right, there's a motion. Any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? Motion passes. All right, we have no other items on the regular agenda. We do have members of the public here, and the folks from BRB are members of the public. Do you have any comments? All right. Seeing none, are there any remarks by members? Mr. Cummings?
Yes, I just wanted to find out, has there been a date set for the next subcommittee meeting?
I think we will have to poll the subcommittee members as far as their availability and then set that date.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Morgan?
Paul Morgan, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone on the Special Finance Committee. It was great to chat through everything, and it was great how quickly we all came to consensus and found a really great solution. So thanks for everyone for taking the time, and look forward to finding a solution with some longevity for the next 5 or 10 years.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank everybody also. That was great.
All right, Mr. Johnson.
And Pete Johnson with the Education Channel. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things coming up here and how to deal with current levels or what we had normally done for this time of year. I've already been telling music teachers and such that we're unable to do concerts this season, or at least as many as we had in the past. I just wanted to make sure that that's still what everybody wants for this point until we're certain that we're getting additional monies to help fund us for the rest of the year? Or do we try to go and do services as we had in the past at this point? A lot of those concerts start about 2 weeks from now, so.
I think I'm not as knowledgeable about exactly how the city would handle that sort of a situation. I would note that our recommendation is just a recommendation. So while this was a hurdle to clear as far as additional funding, it isn't additional funding yet.
And that's the way I've been handling it so far, so.
I don't know if,
I would continue doing it the same way.
I think that's probably prudent.
Sure.
Mr. Camille?
Roni Camille, have you reached out to our other stakeholders? Pete,
Say that again?
have you reached out to the other stakeholders? Have you reached out to the P channel
Oh, I've not.
internally?
No.
We have a contract with them. So, the other thing, when is our next CTAB meeting, Mr. Chair?
I think that the next CTAB meeting is,
Jeff Painter, December 13th.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I had one other question regarding that as well, and it had been discussed in the subcommittee, but the Alliance for Community Media Northeast is having their two-day conference in Connecticut coming up on December 9th and 10th. And we're up to get a couple of awards at a, what do you call it, video festival that's going on that evening. I did sign us up for 2 people to go to that. I think it can still be pulled out, but that had to be done by last Friday for reduced rates. Have not made any appointments yet for a hotel or anything like that, and I just want to get the sense of what we're doing on that aspect of it. I think we can still do it under the current budget as we're looking at it, not without the additional funding, but just want to make sure I'm okay to say, yes, tomorrow is the last day to get reduced rates on hotels, so.
Mr. Mazurich.
Nick Mizerich, first I want to state that I agree with Director Cummings' recommendation of try to keep the concerts at a minimum until that funding actually hits the account. Because, it could go the other way
Yep.
for us.
Yep.
And then as far as what Mr. Johnson just discussed, I feel it is important that we do send representatives to this conference, especially since they are being nominated for an award for the work that they have done to date. If we could get a not-to-exceed number, I think that would be easier to vote on, and I guess we could vote on that today.
I mean, I'd say easily within $1,500, and that would include transportation down and back. The hotels, the rooms themselves are around $160 a night, including taxes. And the event itself for the 2 people was just under 5, so.
Mr. Mazurich?
All right. I'll make a motion to approve that expenditure of not to exceed $1,500 for the gentleman to attend that conference on December 9th,
All right,
9th and 10th.
10th? Okay.
All right, there's a motion. Any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the motion passes. Mr. Painter.
Just a quick one. Jeff Painter, on the government side too, we are doing just what we're required to do as far as meetings go, but we're not going to be doing anything additional.
All right, thank you. Any further remarks, comments? If not, is there a final motion?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Is a motion to adjourn? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the motion is approved.
Thank you. See you all in
Thank you,
December.
everybody.